The Reformed Gamers is brought to you 100% independent and ad-free thanks to our dear patrons over on patreon.com/thereformedgamers. To get yourself sweet perks such as early access to all of our episodes, special episodes of the podcast, and more, head over to patreon.com/thereformedgamers today and consider lending support to the show. Without further ado, let's hop into the show. Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 139 of the Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, a brand new logo, and anything else that we can think of. I am your host, Logan.
And I am his co-host, Adam.
I don't know what it is, man. I thought I'd be not out of breath by the time we started the show, but now I'm out of breath, and I don't know why. I feel like it's just been a crazy week. You know how it is? You're living the adult life, you're working, you're just keeping your head down, knocking out some work, and you're just tired.
Yeah, I get it. It's not necessarily been my week, but I've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
I've been kind of just sitting under some preaching, which has not been a bad thing.
Yeah, man. You're exhausted, but in a different way.
I tell you what, they spiritually worked me over. It was such a fresh reminder. I was at the Gospel Coalition conference, and the focus was on conversations with Jesus. And so they just preached texts where Jesus was interacting and talking with people. And it was first of all, it was a really good reminder. I've been telling this to people of, sometimes if you're in a smaller church or a church where, you don't have a ton of visitors, everyone there is for the most part Christians, you won't necessarily preach. I don't want to say you don't preach Jesus, but you don't preach the Jesus text always. Maybe you're working around the Old Testament. Maybe you're working in some theology or minor prophets or some focus on Revelation, because you're like, everyone here is saved. Maybe I don't have to do the evangelistic sermon as much.
I gotcha.
But they just brought it and they preached Jesus and they were evangelistic and they talked about evangelistic, some things, takeaways from it. And man, it was first of all a great reminder of it doesn't matter if you've been saved your whole life or if you were just saved yesterday. You need the gospel still today and every day. You need Jesus. And so it's just a really good breath of fresh air for myself. But then also reminded me of I don't get to preach enough to where I'm getting all these opportunities. But not necessarily avoiding. When I get asked to preach, I'm not necessarily going to John chapter 3 for my text because I'm you know what. They've probably already heard this, they know this text, but actually being no, that there's still a lot for us to learn and we need to remember. So it was super encouraging. I really had a great time getting to sit under the preaching.
Right on, man. Right on. Did you get to meet anybody from TR? I feel like I saw someone from.
Yeah, me and Drew Hood, man. Me and Drew Hood just been hanging out.
Oh yeah.
He was at a conference actually here at Cedarville a few weeks ago. And he sat and I spoke on cultivating accountability, and he was sitting in on my session, which was super cool.
Right on.
And then I got to meet Mike, who used to be on the Gotham Central podcast with him. So
Mike Jorgensen.
Yeah, me and Mike and Drew and then another guy they knew. We all went out to lunch. So
that's cool.
It was a good time just getting to know Drew again. We connected briefly, but yeah, we got to have a little mini. And I met Kyle Howard, who's been involved with the group and. I went up to him hey, I know you don't really know who I am, but I follow you on Twitter or whatnot. I don't know. You've been in and out of the group.
You don't know me, but I know you.
Yeah. And so we talked, talk shop for a few minutes about video games. And so, yeah, it was cool. I got a couple stacks of books that they were giving away for free. So it was a good trip.
There you go. Right on. Did you know that Drew writes for Love Thy Nerd?
He mentioned that. We were talking about that in regards to our website and their website. We were just talking podcast world. And so, he was talking about how he does that.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until because I had just found out about Love Thy Nerd because of our Parenting Families magazine that we put out for our parents at our church. And I was reading through it and I was checking their website and I was reading this article about it was either Batman or it was some other superhero. I'm like, man, this is really good. Who wrote this? I'm like, Drew Hood. Drew Hood from Gotham Central? What? No way. So I was like, that's cool. That's cool.
So, dear listeners, there you go. Check that out. Go to lovethatnerd.com. Check out Drew's work. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the rest of the show. Of course, dear listeners, I mentioned this at the top of the show. We got a brand new logo for the podcast. Shout out to Sword and Pencil. Guys, go follow him on Instagram at Sword and Pencil. Hit him up. I was going through his... We've been talking about getting a new logo for a while now, and I was going through his Instagram and I saw some of his sketches and drawings of different animals, and I was like, "This guy, this is the guy." And so he put up with me being schizophrenic with asking for edits or things like that, and he was very gracious, and he designed this awesome logo for us, and so super. Thankful for him to do that, so that you guys will see that across all of our social media stuff. Of course, my computer decides to act up when I'm trying. There we go. But yeah, so cool stuff. Go check him out. Trying to think of anything else I'm missing in the meantime. I think that covers that. Okay, and then we also have a new article up on the website that is written by Dear VIP, executive producer of the show, David Skinner. You guys know him. He's been on several episodes of the show now. He wrote an article on the Doctrine of Adoption. It's kind of a branching off, it's stemming from our episode on that same topic, so you guys can go check that out, thereformedgamers.com. Also, got an email this past week from Pop Agenda, which is a video game marketing management company, saying, hey, if you want a code for this new game called Overwhelm that's made by this one guy out of the UK, let us know and we'll send you one. And I was like, I absolutely want a free code to a game. And so they sent us that this week, and we put a video up on YouTube. I think it's like the first 12 minutes or so of the game, just me playing it for 12 minutes, talking about it. You guys can go check that out for yourself. Really cool game, I'm not gonna lie. Overwhelm on the Nintendo Switch. You guys go check out the first look, see what you think. I'm digging it. It's got local co-op. It's got like all sorts of customization options, because if you're terrible at the game like I am, you can make it a little bit easier on you. But like I said, it's on our YouTube channel. Go check that out. But that's it for housekeeping. So it's time to get into the show. Adam, man, I normally do the thing where it's like, hello and welcome to the Reformed Gamers, but we're already here. We're already here in the show. I don't know why I welcome people again, but Adam, man, let's just get into it, man. You handsome bearded man. What have you been playing?
Let's see here. I've been playing a couple different things in my time as it becomes available, and so let me see here. Let me pull them up. So I've been playing that Division 2. Now I'm not as far as you, so I've been trying to get up. I see you online, and I'm like, we did play. We already played one. We did play once, and that was fun. But I'm like, it kind of bumps me up to your high level, which was still a good time. And I'm still, I'm always down for that. So just let me know if you see us on. But I know you're always playing in-game stuff, and I'm like,
Oh, I can hop in your game and help you out, man.
Maybe I'll get there one day. I feel bad. I just feel bad when I have guys do that, because I'm like, I feel like the guy that's dragging everybody down. I'm like,
no, dude.
Little old Adam, level 12, and you're like level 28.
No. But anyways, I'm just helping you out.
But I'm having a really good time. I'm kind of in the tension of the gameplay is great. I don't really know what's going on in the story. Because I'm not really paying attention to it when like go do this mission and there's all this stuff happening in the background. I'm like, let me make sure I got my good gear. The gameplay is like, it's relatively repetitive, but it doesn't matter. It's just fun. Like I don't really care that it's a cover and shoot game. I've actually been playing a lot with just randos. So I don't play, I don't turn up, like we never chat. But I use the online like matchmaking. So if it's a main story mission, you can just do local matchmaking right there, or you can just send up your little flare for help. So I do that almost every time I play. So I'm usually playing with maybe one or two random guys to go through and do some missions, and it's really fun. It does help because some of it can, if you're doing some of the things by yourself, it's hard. Like when you're taking over the different spots, like the
other control points,
like doing those single, because you get surrounded like super quick because people come from everywhere.
The AI will flank you like crazy in this game. They're really smart.
They're very aggressive. which is good. It makes the game fun, but it's helpful to have, especially for those people. Like most of the like the story missions, I feel like I could do those by myself, but they're still more fun with people, even if you're not talking to them. So I'm having a really good time with that game. I've kind of pressed pause on it because, again, I feel like it's a game I can set down and pick back up since I'm mainly playing it by myself. I would like to get to the in-game stuff, so that I could, I know they have like raids and different stuff. I'd love to be able to do that with you guys, but I just don't know if by the time I get there, if people are still going to be playing it. But hopefully.
I know me and the guys that I've been playing, we definitely will be, especially since they're dropping all sorts of new content. Well, tomorrow at the time of that record, but really by the time you listen to this, there's going to be new content on. There's going to be new specializations. I heard they're adding like a giant like Gatling gun to the game, so I'm going to be picking that up and being like, I know command. What are you doing? Get out of my control point, But it's coming, dude. You just wait until you get to the end game. It's going to make that beginning part of the game feel like a 30-hour tutorial.
What?
Like it's
you can explain a little bit. What do you do in like the end game? Because even when I played the first one, I never really got involved in the dark zone.
Yeah. So this is completely different than the first game. In the first game, like you had a finite endpoint, but when you finish the story stuff in the Division 2, it opens up. You go into this thing called like it's like open world tier 1, and you can go up to, I think, tier 5 is what they just put in over the past few days. But basically, these factions invade your world, and they get tougher. They're more smarter. They have more perks and skills that they use against you, and so you're going through and you're clearing out the different zones and trying to take back certain points and stuff. And you can still go do the dark zone stuff if you want, but it gives you a reason to stay in that main world and go and take objectives and grind out for loot and things like that. And it gets nuts. Like I came across this one enemy that was a gold enemy, like a gold boss, and the dude just popped like 4 drones at one time, and they were just wrecking me and some of my other crew. And I'm like, dude, this is a whole other level. And so it's cool. The loot drops are just, I'll say this about the game real quick. The loot drops in this game, Ubisoft, you guys nailed it. Like this is almost Diablo 3 levels of loot drops, because it's good. It just, there's just so much loot, and I love me some loot. But yeah, nice. It just gets crazier, man. It just gets crazier. It's more fun though, but it gets crazier. So that's the end game.
Oh, that's sweet. So yeah, I will be jumping in and out of it, but the main reason I've kind of pressed pause on that is because I need to play Resident Evil 2. I've been sitting on it for a few weeks, but so I'm like, I need to at least start it up before the podcast tonight. So started it up, got to the kind of the I don't want to say it's a hub, but it's kind of the main center area, like the lobby area. Yeah. So I got to the police station. I just got to like the typewriter, so I saved. So I'm kind of going and looking for the medallions or whatever right now.
Oh man.
But it's good. I mean, it looks, as I was looking for our topic and doing some research, I saw some of the screenshots from the original, and I'm like, man, this game looks so good. When you look at the original, it's kind of crazy. I'm like, I don't know how you could have made the old one scary. But this one is like, it's so pretty. It's intense. The flashlight stuff is just, it kind of keeps me on my toes and nervous. I'm feeling the tension with my ammo already, not having a ton of ammo. I'm just waiting and scared for, like, I don't know. People talk so much about the ammo, and I've heard so much about the game. Like, I'm scared to shoot people because I'm like, I need to keep my ammo. And so I'm like, can I just run around them? Are they going to grab me? I don't know the bounds of the zombies yet, because I'm still so early. So I'm excited. I'm going to be focusing up on it over the next 2 weeks. So hopefully we can do an episode on it sooner than later.
Yeah.
But between that and the Division, like, I'm going to be kind of trying to play a balanced game of, okay, can I get some Division in, or do I want to make some progress? I did Claire's story, so I didn't do the other guys.
You did all of Claire's story?
No, that's the one. That's the one I chose to start with.
Oh, gotcha. Cool. That's the one I started with too. Are you playing with headphones at all?
Currently, I wasn't, and
Oh,
this is
dude.
the tension of playing with a child.
Oh,
When
gotcha.
when she's napping, I can put headphones on. I just have to
Mhm.
be looking at my monitor to like watch her to make see when she's getting up.
Right,
But if I
right.
don't, if I'm just playing with the TV on, I can keep that volume on. So that's like the main tension that I play with gaming is I can
Gotcha.
only I can only immerse myself so much unless everyone's in a bed at night, and then then I put on the VR and it doesn't matter what happens. So, gaming
Right
as a
on.
parent right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Limited immersion. So I've been playing that, just starting it up. I'm literally 25 minutes in. And then the other game, a little plus two action on the old backlog off is I picked up the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC because people kept talking about it
Oh, wow.
in the different groups, and so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna see what's going on eBay. Somebody had it for $30 and it was like five
There you
bucks off in March, so I got it for $25, and I'm like, I'll play this. It's about 15-16 hours or so. I'll play it, beat it, sell it, and I'll probably get most of my money back since I got it at such a good price. So, king of
There you
thrift
go,
over
man.
here, wheeling and dealing.
Yep.
So it's a lot more of just the OG. They did mix up some things. They changed some of the gameplay slightly, which was
Mhm.
interesting. I figured it would just be pretty much more of the exact same. But some of the menus and whatnot they changed. They added like some cooking and crafting in some different ways. So, but it's still basically more Xenoblade Chronicles 2 with less revealing clothes. So far that's been pretty good.
Oh, dude, PTL. Maybe I can get into that one then, because I tried to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 a couple months ago, like, or I guess no, last month, and I'm like, yep, nope,
It's
still not
really
digging it.
and I mean, this doesn't justify it. It's way heavier with the fan service stuff in the beginning of that game.
Mm,
But once you get further along, it's definitely not as in your face as it was. It's still there, but it's definitely not what it was. So
yeah,
take it for what it's worth.
fair enough. Fair
So yeah,
enough.
that's what I've been playing.
Cool, cool. Well, as far as what I've been playing, of course, Division 2 stuff. Kind of already talked about that a little bit. Still really digging that game. I found that playing this game on the PS4 with Spotify going is like the perfect chill gaming experience. Just really just running around, completing objectives, getting loot. Oh man, it's a good time. It's a good unwinding game. Good stuff. Good stuff. By the way, dear listeners, if you are looking for a clan on PS4, hit us up because we've got Team Awesome running. Sounds weird. We got Team Awesome running around, and so you guys can group up with us, and we'll try
And you can
to
play
play
with
with you.
me because apparently I need friends who are
There
like
you go, man.
slowly playing it, who aren't already level 30.
Or if you are level 30, help power level Adam so he can get into the end game with us.
Or that
Uh,
works too.
but yeah, still enjoying it, still really digging it. I'm looking for. I haven't played any of the updates yet because by the time we're recording this, the updates aren't live, and so I'm really looking forward to getting in there and trying those out, taking a look at the raid if possible. But yeah, Division 2, good stuff. Also, like I said, playing Overwhelm. You guys can check the video out on YouTube, youtube.com/the Reformed Gamers. Really cool game. It's kind of like a roguelike, like a Metroidvania roguelike, which I get. We've already got enough of those out there. It's kind of dry, but this one, I don't know, man. It there's something about it that makes it stand out. And I haven't quite put my finger on it just yet. I haven't gotten a chance to try the co-op just yet. I told my wife that it had co-op and she was like, I'm not going to play this game. And I'm like, oh, yes, you are. Cause we're going to make YouTube content with that. And so she was still not for it, but we're going to play it and see how it goes. But I'm digging it. I'm really enjoying it. So, if you guys are curious about it, go check out that video. Also because my boy Wesley in the group, one of our executive producers, my boy Wesley has been talking about this Power Rangers game for the past few months, Battle for the Grid, which is like a fighting game in the vein of like Marvel versus Capcom, but with Power Rangers. And I'm like, I grew up with some Power Rangers. I loved me some Power Rangers, specifically the Green Ranger, because his Dragonzord was baller as all get out. And I was looking at the game, checking out some trailers. I'm like, this looks pretty cool. I could get into this. I could roll with this game. And then I saw, because Wesley retweeted this, so I'm partially blaming him for this, and completely ignoring my lack of willpower. And I saw that they were releasing free content for the game, and I'm like, hold up, this game is $20, and you guys are giving us free content? Done, sold, bought it, played it for a little bit. And I gotta say, it plays pretty well. Like when you first see the trailer, it kind of seems like the gameplay is going to be choppy, but nah, it's smooth. It's buttery smooth. I don't know what the combos are because I'm new to the fighting game, but it's cool, man. If you are a fan of Power Rangers at all, this is the perfect game for you. There's a lot of fan service in here, especially if you've been reading the comic books. I've been talking to Wesley about this a little bit. If you've been reading the comic books, there's stuff in there for you too. Like it's got something for everybody in there, you know. And even just someone who hasn't stuck with the franchise as long as some other people have, it's cool that I can call in a Dragon Zord to shoot finger missiles at people and blow people up and use a little drill tail thing to knock people around. And it's like this is fun. This is just goofy fun. And so I'm enjoying it. Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. I think you guys can get it on just about anything now. I think they finally released it for PS4 this past week, or it's coming out this week. I don't know. They staggered the release for PS4 for some reason. But Power Rangers Battle for the Grid is pretty legit. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. I mean, you know, it's better than Mortal Kombat, in my opinion. But that's just my hot take. That is my hot take. So let's move over to what have you been reading, Adam, man? What book do you have your nose in as of late?
Yeah, I've been looking back. So at T4G, and I'm blessed with my job. I get to go to these conferences. They always give you all these books, and so I kind of sit there and I'm like, I don't stop buying books, you dummy. You have so many books that you haven't read. Go pick one of those. And so
when buy more books.
Yeah, when I finished the other book, Crook in the Lot, I'm like looking at my shelf, and so I've got a book. It's like a series that focuses on different theologians and the Christian life. So I'm reading one on Martin Lloyd-Jones and the Christian life, and it's Doctrine and Life as Fuel and Fire is kind of the subtext. And so the way it kind of goes through, looks at a little bit of biography, but then it kind of just goes through, at least in this one, I don't know if all the other ones do the same exact thing, but then it's kind of looking at how different doctrines and how he approached them. And cool little fact about Martin Lloyd-Jones that I don't think we realize, he never really wrote a book. Any book that is by Martin Lloyd-Jones is just a collection of either his sermons or lectures or things like that. He never actually wrote a book. I mean, that's probably true of a lot of old theologians, but nice little fun fact there. But so I'm reading one on kind of his section on the actually, no, it's on redemption. And so a part of Martin Lloyd-Jones's kind of story is with his wife. His wife would say that she wasn't really saved, she would say, till she was older in life, and she kind of struggled with that of like, she would see people coming to Christ and would kind of be jealous of them because they were coming out of addiction or coming out of different types of hard things, and so she was always kind of jealous of like, man, I wish I had a cool story like that of how Christ saved me. And I think that's probably, a lot of us have probably been there at times at some point and being like, oh, my story is kind of boring because I grew up in a Christian home, and God didn't really, I think it's an improper view of self. Like, God didn't have to save me a ton because I didn't really sin a ton. I didn't drink, didn't have sex, didn't do all these things. And so we kind of think that God didn't have to really work to save us, or it wasn't that, it wasn't this great miracle that it was. And so he talks about that some. He says, if you are not amazed at yourself, you are not a Christian, my friend. All Christians are miracles, and they should be amazed at themselves. He reminds them that there is no such thing as an ordinary Christian. And so just that idea of like, again, that kind of goes back to, you're not really understanding what Christ has done in your life if you don't think that it's an amazing story. And then he goes on to say this, I love this. It says, he's talking about the doctrine of regeneration, which is really good. It was really clarifying, really just helpful as I was reading through it. But he says, the doctrine of regeneration proves that you do not have a boring testimony, because being raised from the dead is not boring. And so I'm just like, let's go. Like, such a good reminder of what God has done in our life. And so if you're sitting there and you think like, my salvation story is kind of boring, I was saved at the age of 7 and grew up in a Christian household. Like, again, I'm not trying to push back too hard, but recognize what really happened. You were dead and God made you alive.
No,
There is
come on.
there's nothing boring about that. It is a miracle. It's a miracle that God drew you, that he called you, that he sent his son to die on the cross for you. So let's remind ourselves, let's preach the gospel to ourselves today that we have no boring testimonies here. You know, our story may be different. It may not be what may seem as radical in some ways, but it's definitely not a boring story because you were once dead. You're now alive. You once had a stone heart, and now you have a heart that is alive, all because of the grace of God. And so just a little encouragement there. It was really like, as I was reading, I was just like, because I mean, I grew up in a Christian home. I was a pastor's kid. There's, you know, I always say I had a pretty leave it to beaver life. You know, it wasn't anything crazy. My sister and brother are good kids for the most part. Myself, relatively obedient kid. And so at times it's, you know, I fall into that trap of like, you know, I was pretty good, God. Like, congratulations on saving me because Adam was a good guy. It's like, no, Adam was a crabby person and an enemy of God and was dead in his sins. But yet God in his grace chose to save me. Like, I am a miracle and I don't need to think any differently. So,
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. I like that. You know, because we do get into that trap of like, my testimony isn't all like, you know, I wasn't freed out of a drug addiction or something like that. You know, we compare ourselves to that, but it's like, dude, you hit it right on the head. It's like, dude, God still did a miracle. Like, that's mind blowing. That is mind blowing stuff. Real good stuff. So as far as what I've been playing, then reading. As far as what I've been reading, I started this book and finished it recently called The Treasure Principle by Randy Alcorn. It's a book that some other dear listeners were going through a couple months back, and I'm just now getting around to it. And I'm not gonna lie, reading this book along with Ecclesiastes is not a good idea because it's going to kick you in the teeth left and right. And so Randy Alcorn wrote another book called Money, Possessions, and Eternity, which is like a really thick book. And the Treasure Principle is taking one aspect of that book and writing it and fleshing it out in a shorter book, much shorter book. Like you probably finish this book in a weekend or a day if you really wanted to. But he's talking about how, you know, and he doesn't beat around the bush about it. Like Christians are to give of their money to the church, but also ministries. And he really hits the point home. Two things is that, you know, God is giving us this money to bless other people. We're to use it to take care of our needs and things like that. That's how he provides for us, or one of the ways that he provides for us. But he's also giving us money to bless other people, whether it's Christians in our church or non-Christians or whoever. And so he also nails down the point of, you know, we can't really take any of this stuff with us. So why do we waste our time spending money on things that just don't last? And he's not trying to say like, you know, don't buy a TV or don't ever buy any of that stuff. But he's just kind of getting you to think of, what is the point of you buying X, Y, and Z if you can't really take it with you, you know? And he just, I don't even know how to really get into all of the book. He covers a lot of ground in such a short amount of pages, but it got me thinking about just how I spend my money, you know, how I spend even money for this podcast and things like that. And he recounted this conversation that he has often with fellow church members where they say something like, oh, I wish I could get into missions more. You know, I wish I could get more involved in missions and have a bigger heart for missions. And he tells them like, well, Jesus tells you how to do that. Put your money in it. Because whatever you put your money into, you're going to care about. You're going to have a deep vested interest in it. And so if you want to get into missions, put more money into it. And I stopped and kind of thought about that during my lunch break was when I was reading it. And I just thought about it and just kind of was going over just the different things that you know, we put our money towards as a family. And I was like, you know, that makes a lot of sense. I care a lot about the things that we're putting money into, and I don't really care so much about things that we're not putting our money into at all. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. You know, if we want to get more involved in, let's say we want to get more involved in church, are we giving to our church? Are we tithing? And I know that's a touchy subject with people, but I don't care. I'll talk about it. Are you tithing? Are you giving money to your church? If you want to be more involved in, let's say, adoption even. I know that's kind of one that we go around a lot on, but I mean, you want to get more involved in that. How are you helping with that? Are you giving towards local pregnancy centers in your area? Are you giving to your church's different adoption ministries or fostering ministries? Or, maybe you want to be more involved in evangelism. Are you putting any money towards that? I'm not trying to force anybody to give money or something. It's just, I'm just trying to get you to think. If we're going to sit here and say, like, I wish I was more involved in this, it's like, well, why aren't we?
Yeah.
If we can't sit here. It's something my pastor said. This is past Sunday. He's like, he used this analogy. He's like, it's great that you have, a great defense will win a championship, but eventually you got to shoot that ball. You can sit there and research and gather information all you want, but eventually you got to move. You got to make waves. You got to open doors. You got to do all this stuff. And it just got me thinking, man. I'm like, man, if I want to impact, my student ministry, if I want to impact people for the gospel with this podcast, if I want to impact someone's life through adoption, I got to start putting some money into that,
Yeah, and that's one thing.
And,
Dr. Idle, when we were at Southwestern, he would always say, when it comes to international missions, I either want you going, I want you to be supporting, either monetarily in some ways as you can, and especially in prayer, or I want you miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Those were his three. Those were your three options. He always said, and I think of, like, okay, for me, having served overseas in a capacity and not having been able to really go with the different, with growing our family and different things, it's been hard for me because I haven't been able to go in ways that I have in years past. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I've given, and I don't say this as like a humble bragger. It's just I'm grateful for it. But we've been able to support people more than I ever have in my life. But I'm glad that I have to remember that, because at times I get tempted and think, oh, I'm not involved like I used to. But it's like, Adam, check yourself. You actually have been. It's just been in different ways. And so,
Yeah,
because if you can only be involved in certain things by doing it, whether that's adoption or missions or whatever, if you can only be involved by actually doing that act yourself, then there's a lot of people who aren't being obedient. But God allows us to all be involved in different ways. And a lot of times, again, we were blessed by the support of people. I've been blessed I can't say but so many times by people supporting me, whether that's in going overseas or in adoption or in just being a blessing. And so I've been on the receptive end of that. And it's been a blessing to get to be on the other end of that. So I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, man. Straight up. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, as you were talking about that, it reminds me of Paul and Barnabas, man. The church that they were at that sent them out, they didn't go out with them, but they prayed for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they probably sent them letters and stuff like that. They didn't go out with Paul and Barnabas, but they definitely supported them. And in a way, they were partnering with them. So it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. There's a lot of ways to be obedient to specific calls to different ministries, but definitely if you're wanting to get more involved in something, try putting some more money into it. I mean, that'll get you interested real quick. So, like I said, Treasure Principle, worth checking out. You guys can go check that out at bookstores everywhere. But let's get into the topic of the show, which stems from this article I saw floating around on Twitter recently. A friend of the show who we've had on before in our God of War episode, Matthew Millsap, shared an article about Final Fantasy VI turning 25 this year. And I'm like, good grief, I am old. but at the same time, it's cool to just think about the legacy that this game has kind of had in both storytelling and gameplay, and just kind of looking at the mark that it has left in the world of video games. And it got me wondering, because me and Matt were talking back and forth just about the things we liked about the game and whether or not it's better than Chrono Trigger, and kind of going from there. It kind of got me thinking of, what are some must-play games that we as gamers definitely hold on to, and we always recommend to other people for certain reasons. And some of these games may not be playable by today's standards, so it's it's purely fueled by nostalgia at this point with some games. But I thought we could just kind of go and share some of our must play games on the podcast and talk about why we think they're must play games, what we really liked about them, what kind of impact they left on us, and just kind of go from there. I did secretly field this question out with some of our dear listeners on Twitter. And so I'll read some of them a little bit later on. But just so you guys know, I was fielding questions. I was fielding answers for this episode.
Sneaky.
Sneaky. So, Adam, man, must play games, man. When you think about all of the games that you have played, and particularly the games that you have really enjoyed, the games that just left a strong impression on you, what is one of those games that you would definitely recommend to someone else? Be like, hey, man, this is a must play game.
Well, kind of like you said, this is kind of a tough topic because you can address this from a lot of different ways. You can address it from, these are my favorite games. You can address these from, industry changers. You can address them from a story basis, or, I think of, you've got some of these major series. You've got Zelda, you got Mario. Okay, am I picking the best one of that series as like if I'm giving them a limited amount of games? Because, and there was a little bit of this when I joined TRG. I've shared this a lot. Like when I came in, I was Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, sports game. Like those are what I played for the most part. I'd get a random game here or there, but that was a lot of my gaming. Some first person shooters, but I wasn't an RPG guy. I definitely wasn't any JRPG. I hadn't really played the Zeldas. There's a ton of games that I hadn't played. So I entered TRG, and people are like, "You've got to play these games." And I'm like trying to play catch up for the last basically 5 years of my life. I've been playing catch up with some of these games. And so I'll kind of give some explanation for some of the different ones that we discuss. But kind of looking at my list here of where I want to start. I guess probably one, and this isn't going to be a surprise to any dear listeners who's been around for a while, but one that I say is a must play because I think it still holds up. It's still fun. The graphics maybe aren't as sharp as they used to be, of course, but I think the gameplay still holds up, and it was an industry changer. And so I think it's still deep, man. You think of how deep this game is. I need to get to the title, but Mario 64. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, you may not like it. I think, I went back and tried to play Mario Sunshine on the GameCube, and it didn't really connect with me. The controls were wonky. The camera was wonky.
That's Mario game.
It had some of the Mario 64 essence, but it wasn't Mario 64. And even as I look back to Mario Odyssey, like that game was really fun, and it had a lot of like the 3D platforming Mario, but Mario 64 is still the OG. It still plays well. You've got 140 stars. You think of like that game was massive, and it was hard, and it had secrets. It kind of changed, when it came out, you had some other games that like were trying on the like PlayStation, but they were more like ultra realism. They were trying to be more realistic, and the technology wasn't there. But Mario 64 is like we're cartoony, but we've got this 3D aspect to it. That was just, I've bought that game for the 3DS or the DS or whatever. I had it for the 64. Like I put so many hours into that game trying to collect all the stars, and it was hard. Like there were certain stars that were super difficult. It was definitely not an easy game, but just being able to explore. I mean, the nostalgia. I think again, this is one of the games I say, if you've got a 64 or a DS, like 3DS, and you can get this game, it's definitely one that still you can get into it and holds up, and it's still a lot of fun. But the way that it changed 3D platformers, like that mascot, you think of your Banjo-Kazooie, you think of your Crash Bandicoot, all of those come out of the Mario 64, kind of started all this, and gave them a good vision of like your Spyro, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that have come out recently where it's a collectathon, really. You're trying to get all the stars, but Mario 64 did it best at that stage. So that would be one of my must plays. If you haven't played it, like, I don't say this too often, but shame on you. Shame on you people. I'm not saying you have to beat it.
Repent.
it is a classic. And I mean that's hard because
Yeah.
there's a lot of good Marios you could have picked from. You could have picked Super Mario
Totally.
World, just
Sunshine.
stop. And I might have another Mario game on my list, but that's the one I'll start with.
Yeah, man. Dude, I remember when that game came out and just remember seeing the 3D just design of it and playing through it. I'm like, dude, this is at the time it was unlike anything else I'd ever played before.
That triple jump life, man. The whoa, whoa, wahoo, and then you die.
There
Then
you
you
go.
die forward into a wall, and it's like, oh,
Yep. Dude, that game is still solid, man. Part of the reason why I still go back to Mario Odyssey every now and then is because I can't go back to Mario 64. But dude, yeah, playing it for the first time, man, what a ride! Like, and the way it controlled and stuff, it was just so
that camera was
smooth,
wonky
man.
sometimes.
Like,
I'm like, come on, Koopa, get it
sure,
right.
sure. But man, and then we got one of the funniest memes of all time where you pick up the penguin, drop it off the edge, and it's just, you're a horrible person because of it. But yeah, that's a great pick, man. Great pick. I think for me, this is one of the games that, even though I didn't play it right when it came out, I played it years later. I, even to this day, am still kicking myself for not having played it when it first came out. And it just left such a strong impression on me with its style, with its gameplay, with its characters, even with its music and alert tones and things like that. Dude, Metal Gear Solid, the first one, is, I think, a must-play game. And it's one that I think, even though it's a PlayStation 1 game and it doesn't really look all that great because it's blocky, I think it still holds up pretty well because I played it on PS3 2 years ago, maybe. It was after you had gotten a PS3, and then I picked one up shortly after and started playing some of those games. And
it's been about 4
man,
years because it was like right after I got married.
Has it been? Golly, man, time goes by way too fast. I'm about as old as Solid Snake is now. But yeah, dude, what a game, man. Like, the story stuff is intriguing. The characters are so off the wall. Like Revolver Ocelot, with how he's shooting the bullets and bouncing them off different things. It makes no sense, but man, is it cool to look at. Psycho Mantis, when he reads your memory card.
That's what I was gonna say. Some
says,
of the
like,
gameplay elements, like that one right there, is like next level.
Yeah.
What? Like,
and then the trick to beating him is like you use a different controller. I mean, I'll let you guys figure that out if you decide to play it. But like, that is cool. The Sniper Wolf fight was so intense. Even playing it years later on the PS3, man, I was just like, my palms were sweaty during that fight. And then getting to the end when you take on the Metal Gear, it's just, man, it is like playing a action movie. And Solid Snake is a memorable character. Like, all the characters are memorable. And I'm just like, why did I not play this game sooner? Why did I not get a PlayStation 1 and play this game? It is so stinking good. It left such a major impression on me, man, that I still think about that game to this day often. And just, man, I wish it was on PlayStation now so I could go back and play it and really get into it, because it is such a cool game. It is so stinking good.
That's one of those games where I'm like I'm glad I went and played it because it was a classic in many ways. I mean, some of the things, the reasons I didn't play when I was younger still stood up for when I played it again. Like, the different camera angles always threw me off and messed with me. And so, but again, for that series, it's vital to play that one. And so, I like the Metal Gear games, the Metal Gear, 1, 2, 3, especially 4 was great. 5 was fun, story not as heavy. But yeah, you had to play the first one. And it is one of the classics. I mean, for a series to be that big, it's hard to say avoid the first one. Yeah, absolutely, man. Oh, it's so good. And then Grey Wolf. Oh man, there's so many cool moments in that game. So many cool moments. Oh man. So what's your next one, man? What's another game that you hold as a must-play title? I'm gonna kind of switch gears. This one was big for some different reasons. It's a great game, first of all, but it kind of I don't know if it was a trendsetter per se, but it took puzzle the ideas of puzzles and games, I feel like, to a new level. And that game was Portal. And so
Ooh,
it was
yeah.
and so the first one, I'm trying to remember, the first one wasn't really co-op. It was mainly the second one. Um,
Yeah, it was the second
but
one.
playing that game and kind of this, you don't realize how good the story is. You're like, oh, I'm just kind of solving puzzles, trying to get from one place to the next. But in the background, there's this really good story happening. And then by the end, if you haven't played it, I'm sorry. Um, don't want to spoil, but you kind of get like the behind the scenes of like and trying to like get out and all these things. And so I may be confusing some of the first and second one. I don't know, but it was just one of those really fun kind of. I've never played a game like this before. You're really playing it. Okay, can I shoot something there? I've got to get to this spot to this spot. But it was an instant classic. I mean, you just think of the orange box in general. That back in the day on the 360 or PC, you had Half-Life 2 with the DLC, you had Portal, and you had Team Fortress 2. Like what a collection, first of all. But Half-Life 2 was great, but Portal was the memorable one for me in many ways.
It's good stuff, man. Yeah, I remember playing that game for the first time and just wondering, like, what is this game?
You think you're not gonna like it, and then once you start playing, you're like, holy cow, this is great.
Yeah, and you look at the clock and it's 3 a.m. You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's a cool game, and those puzzles are really, really good. And 2 even just takes them even further with the co-op. So yeah, that's another
When you
great
think
one,
of it's
man.
like it was kind of one of the originals, just one more level. Okay, just one more puzzle.
Yeah,
Just one
yeah,
more puzzle.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Plus, the humor was top notch
Yeah.
too. The humor
Yeah.
really helped give that game some charm. Man, what a memorable character in GLaDOS. Well, kind of continuing with that same trend of games that have a particular charm to them, games that make you think, that challenge you with its own unique set of puzzles, is this game that I remember being real big during one of the first Xbox Live Summer of Arcades that they had, and it's this game called Braid, where I don't know, and again, I'm gonna try and be very vague with some of this, but you play as this character who has to rescue his girlfriend who's been taken by this unseen force, and you play through the game. It's kind of like a typical platformer, but you have the ability to rewind time or fast forward time, and you use those abilities to get past the different puzzles in the game. And it's, oh man, I don't even know where to begin with this game. Between the music, its visual art style, where it's kind of like a storybook, kind of like a cartoon too, and just the smart puzzle. Like the puzzles are, they never felt unfair when I played that game. They would be frustrating at times, but once you figure out the solution, it's like, oh, that's what it was. Okay, I've got this. And it had a way of empowering you to keep going, to where it's kind of like what you said with Portal. It's just, okay, one more puzzle. Okay, okay, one more puzzle. Okay, I think I got this. Okay, I did get this one. Let's do another puzzle. Man, I played that game for hours on end, and it's fun. I really enjoy that game. And fun fact, the guy that made that game, I believe, also made The Witness, which is a free game on PS Plus this past month, I
Yeah.
think. So if you enjoyed The Witness, definitely check out Braid. But I that's one where I'm like,
Interesting. I've never played
it left a really good impression on me. So, but yeah, it was one of
Yeah.
those big games during the Summer
Oh,
Arcade.
that's sweet. Yeah, I've never
But
played that one.
yeah, man. It's real good, real good.
Let's see here. I think the next one I would say is a must play. This one we've done an episode on it, but the original BioShock.
That was gonna be one of my
It
picks.
is. I
Yeah.
mean, gameplay aside, which was just, I mean, some of the most fun gameplay with the different ways that you could choose. If you talk to people who play the game, they're probably talking about the different combinations of what tonics and stuff they use. You might have used the bird attacks or the bees or the freeze or there's a lot of different ways that you could approach that game. But really, because of the atmosphere the art style
Mhm.
and the storytelling. You
man.
get that combination of kind of dystopian. I don't really want to say it's not really post-apocalyptic. It's more than dystopian.
Mhm.
The underwater, like it's a beautiful game. Even on the 360, it already looked great, and then you look at the remastered version. But the storytelling is just so good. It freaked me the crap
Yeah,
out as
dude.
I played it. Um, and it is a classic. It's playable still today. Again, you've got the remastered versions, but you could play the originals. Um, it's like you call it a first person shooter because it is. You do have the guns, but that's like again the flexibility of gameplay. The guns are important, especially if you're. I mean, and you think of the intensity as I'm talking about the intensities of fighting the big daddies. You're like, okay, am
Yeah.
I equipped
Yeah.
to fight this guy right now, or do I need to like leave it be, go get some stuff, and then I can come back and take him out? Then the choice of do I take the atom and or do like by freeing the girls, or do I take the atom by taking care of them? Just the tension that is there. Like that game is it's a must play. It's a classic. I think the second one is still really good and the third one is really good also. But if I'm picking one of them, the original kind of stands out by far compared to the other ones. And I mean, you think of the depth of that game. You've got all the tapes, the audio tapes that were I mean,
Yep.
there's so much imagery, themes to discuss. Fantastic must play classic game.
So good, man. So good. Dear listeners, if you haven't checked out that episode we did, definitely go check it out. Man, that game, that was another one that left an impression on me too. I remember when it came out and me and my youth pastor were playing it. Shout out to Michael. We were playing it and dude, just man, the world of Rapture is so stinking unique that it just draws you in, man. And it is, you're right. It's scary at times. but man, it's so unique. It's a game that I've actually thought about going back and playing here recently because I'm like, I've just been thinking about it, man. I was like, man, Bioshock is so good. It's one of those games that, man, it's just, you can go back and play again and again and again and just enjoy it just as much, if not more, as the first time that you played that game. Man, so unique. So unique. My next pick is one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time. One of my favorite local and online multiplayer games of all time. Partially because of its comic book style, mostly because of its hilarious humor, and then also because the gameplay and the loot is just so stinking good. So Ryan McGregor on Twitter, man, I'm agreeing with you. Borderlands 2 is my other must-play game. It took what made the first game great and just did it even better, went way more over the top with a lot of the characters and its humor with Mr. Torque, Tiny Tina, Claptrap getting more of a prominent role, Handsome Jack just being that annoying antagonist that you find hilarious, but you also want to punch him in the face at the same time. And man, just the different ways the different characters played from Zero with the more assassin stealth kind of approach, or the Necromancer girl, I can't remember her name, but using that it's just what a game, man, and chock full of content too. You could
Yeah.
easily spend probably 70 to 80 hours on just the base game, and then you have all the other DLC expansions you can jump into if you get the Handsome Collection, and that's going to push you over 100 hours easily. And then if you got friends to play it with, it's even more fun. I mean, of course, just about anything is more fun with friends, but just getting all the crazy powers going at one time, doing goofy tricks with the catcher rides, and oh man, dude, what a game. I still play that game every now and then and just still laugh at those jokes because the humor in that game, the writing in that game is really good. The humor is not going to be for everybody. I will admit that, but man, it is a zany, fun, explosive game. And I'm super pumped that Borderlands 3 is coming out because I'm just like, just give me more, man. Borderlands 2 was my game for the longest time on 360, and it's so good. I think it's well worth playing, even by today's standards. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
All right, so that's one,
So,
two. We've each done three. Is that right?
yep.
All right, I thought maybe 2 more because we could do this all night.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna take it. Okay, this is some recency bias, but I'm gonna say it because I think it is that good, and you don't have to try that hard to find it per se. But God of War 2018, our most recent God of War.
Mm,
I don't want to
yeah.
be like go over the top. I mean, and I've said this on the podcast. I know you disagree, and some people have disagreed with me, but I think it's the game of the generation. It's up there for possibly one of my favorite games of all time, and so
Oh wow.
and it it holds up in a ton of areas. I mean, again, you're pushing the max in regards to graphics and like cinematography within the game. I mean, you've got great visuals, you've got great gameplay. There's a lot of personalization into it, and it is smooth as butter when you're fighting, and you feel so much power. Those two things alone would make the game great. But then you bring in the storytelling of the game, and you have the father son relationship and the way that they deal with that takes it to the next level. And then when you think of, okay, it's all a one cut game, there's no loading screens, there's no like stoppages. You're just going from one place to the next, and you don't pause if you don't want to. Um, you think of the intro of that game that is so epic, and then the final fight, I was literally clapping my hands and like talking out loud, like, yes, yes, like this is so
Yeah.
good. As I'm hitting the enemy, like they kind of go slow motion. I'm just like, this is so epic. And then there are just huge linchpin moments throughout the game where you get a certain item or certain things happen. You're just like, my gosh. I mean, there's a reason it is winning literally every game of the year award from here till Kingdom Come for 2018. I mean, there's still it literally today got some new game of the year award. I'm like, why are they still giving out
Yep.
new game of the year awards for last year? Like move.
Yeah, I think it got a BAFTA award is what
Yeah.
it was. I remember seeing that on Twitter.
It is again, it is it's going to be around for a long time. And so I know a lot of people liked a lot of games last year. Spider-Man was great. This isn't my game of the year. Again, this is probably I've talked about BioShock. I don't remember when BioShock came out. It's been longer than 10 years, but this is my game of the last 10 years for sure. I mean, it is just so much of it connected for me. So yeah, that's
Man.
one that I think I was literally just talking with Drew Hood and Mike and some of those guys that were talking about at TGC, and Mike asked me like, okay, what's the best game you've played in the last year? And I'm like, okay, when did God of War come out? Okay, it's been a year. This is the game. Like, and so we were discussing that some with Drew and whatnot, but it was a special one for me. I'm not saying it has to be everybody's game of the decade or whatever, but it was that special. Especially if you have a PS4, like finish what I'm not going to tell you
Yeah.
to not quit what you're doing, but finish what you're playing. And then if you can get it, get it. It is the exclusive of exclusives to play on PlayStation.
Man. Yeah, GG app on Twitter, and there's one more. And David Matthews would agree with you, man. They both mentioned God of War 2018, and it's funny. I give you a hard time about the game being the game of the generation, but I've been thinking about this game a lot lately. Like, man, I kind of want to go back and play God of War. And so I'm not going to say it's like game of the generation, but it definitely is one of the heavy hitters. I will agree with you that it is a must play title because just the relationship between Kratos and Atreus is enough to hit you in the feels and be like, dude, this is really compelling. But yeah, man, what a game. What a game. What a game. Well, my next pick, I'm going to kick a old school here, going even further back than Braid, further back than Metal Gear Solid, I think. Yeah, no, it is further back. And this is one that I would say is what inspired Dark Souls. It's the game that Dark Souls looked at and was like, all right, we need to be harder and more challenging than this game, which is already hard and challenging enough. And that is Mega Man X. This is a game that I loved being able to not only play again, but actually finish for the very first time this past year on the Switch with that Mega Man X Legacy Collection. And man, everything from the way that the game looks to the way that the game still handles, the controls are so precise, even still to this day. Everything from that to the visuals to the music to the iconic sounds of Mega Man charging up his arm cannon, and just the way that you can use the bosses, like when you defeat a boss and you get their weapon, the way that you can use that to create a domino effect to just knock out all the other ones is so intriguing and just so rewarding. And then you get to the last, 4 or 5 stages of getting to Sigma. It is so brutally hard, but man, is it so rewarding. It is so much fun. And then finding the different armor upgrades, and it's a great game that still holds up. And I think it's one of those things of that era of gaming, of the 16-bit generation of Super Nintendo games, that still hold up in a lot of ways, whether it's controls or just visuals. It's one of those games that you can go back and play to this day and still have a pretty smooth experience. The game will kick you in your teeth a lot. I mean, I'm not going to lie. If you don't like hard games that are going to challenge you, don't play this game. But I'm still going to recommend it because it's so stinking good. And I think it just left such an impact on the gaming landscape that gave us games like Dark Souls, Salt and Sanctuary, Sekiro, all these other games that I think owe a lot of their success and heritage to Mega Man X. And maybe I'm off the rocker on this one, but I don't care. I'm still going to say it because it's my podcast and I say what I want. But Mega Man X, dude, must play. 100%. 100%.
I'm not playing it, but other people can.
Do it. Get
I
on
tried
it.
to play it
Get
on
it, Adam.
one of the Mega Man games on my SNES Classic, and I'm like, this is too hard. I don't want to play this.
Oh man.
I'm like, why? I
See,
used to
here's
be able
the
to
thing,
beat
though.
the originals all the time, and I'm like, man, I was a much better gamer back then because these ones are freaking tough.
See, all you gotta do is just get the Legacy Collection and then turn on that Hunter mode or whatever it was that they added into the game that makes it easier, and you'll enjoy it. You'll have a good time.
Yeah, I don't know, probably not, but sure.
I can already sense that ain't nobody got time for that.
I'm not gonna say it, but that's what I'm feeling. I'm trying to get Division 2. I'm trying to get to the Dark Zone, man. I ain't got time for.
Hey, man, I hear you.
I think my last one. Honorable mention, Mario Brothers 3. Great game. I'm not going to go into it, but like that's one of my growing up. It was like it took Mario to kind of another level, also kind of in that NES or Super. I mean, I mentioned Super Mario World, man. Some of those games just classics, really classics. Part of me wants to say Breath of the Wild, but I'm not going to. Part of me wants to say Link to the Past, but I'm not going to do that either. I'm going to go with Ocarina of Time. And it's not my favorite one. I'm not going to say that, but again, for the same reasons that we talked about, kind of Metal Gear Solid. It's not the first one, but it's the first of the modern Zeldas. It was open world but linear at the same time. Like you could kind of go back and explore kind of different areas, but you still had to go a certain path. But it kind of gave us ideas of what an open world could be like in like that generation. It was kind of ahead of its time in some ways. Bringing Link to the 3D world. I mean, it was the Link. I mean, from there we got Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker. I mean, you think of Breath of the Wild. None of those happen if we don't get 3D Ocarina of Time. And it's still a fun game. I didn't play it. It was one of those games that when I got into TRG, everyone's like, you haven't played Zelda games? Like, get your life together. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I got me a 3DS, and I went back and I played almost between that and my Wii U. The only major one, like I didn't play in the Game Boys. Like I'm excited to play Link's Awakening when it comes out on the Switch because I haven't got to that one. But the only major one I haven't played is besides Link 2 on the NES, which was redonkulous. I played it back in the day and never beat it. is Skyward Sword. That's the one I haven't got to, and I hope they re-release it. I really would like
Yeah.
to play it, but I'm not
Same.
gonna do the motion controls and all that. So, but Ocarina of Time, I think, is the one that it's got all this hype. I think it's still one of the highest ranked games ever. If you like Zelda games, for sure. If you like kind of that action adventure, old school cartoony look, like this is a good one. Again, you've got a lot of ways that you can play it. I think the best way to play it is on a 3DS if you can get it, or 2DS or whatever, because they've cleaned it up some. It looks a little bit better. But if, I mean, you can go back and play, it still holds up on the 64, so you can go that route also. But that would probably be my last one for all the reasons I mentioned, not just because, it is still a lot of fun, but what it did for the industry, what it did for Zelda. I mean, we're going to have our episode of, bonus episode of our gaming Mount Rushmore or whatever. And like, if we don't get Ocarina of Time, Link's probably not on that. He's probably not on Mount Rushmore. But because of how that game was made and how the vision for it, I don't know how you keep him off. So,
yeah, it's true. It's true. Man, that was a huge, huge game. I remember playing that for the first time and just be like, dude, this is what video games can be? Good grief. Like, give me more. Give me more. As I'm sitting here thinking about what I want my last must-play game to be, I mean, long-time dear listeners know, Persona 4 Golden, of course, go play it. If you haven't played it yet, just get your life together. Go
I
play
even played it.
That's
I don't even like
what
JRPGs.
Adam even played it. It's so good, but it's not what I want to talk about right now. And Hellblade's really good. It means a lot to me, but like it's one of those games that if I'm going to give you a must-play game, I want this thing to be accessible to as many people as possible. And this is the one I keep coming back to, and this is going to shock some people. Obviously, Final Fantasy VI is one you should play, but I'm going to end my must-play games with Final Fantasy VII. And here's why, okay? I know this is a game that we debate about which one is better, Final Fantasy VI or 7. 4 kind of slips into the ring sometimes, and so does 9 and 10, but then they get knocked out because it's like, get out of here. Playing this game again on the Switch has made me realize a couple things. One, Square Enix better hurry up with this remake or whatever it is they're doing ASAP, because this game looks dated as all get out. Like, it looks like paper dolls that you're playing with. But part of what makes this game really good is its combat. The combat is so remarkably good that as I'm sitting there playing it, I'm like, this is, to a degree, the top tier of JRPG gameplay, of the active time battle, the turn-based system of using the materia system to give your character certain boosts and buffs and abilities, and it all works together so seamlessly and so well. And of course, the music is iconic. I mean, you can't get around that. I'm sure you've heard what is it, One Winged Angel at some point. It's so iconic. And as you play through it, even the characters are memorable. Cloud is a bit of a butthead in the beginning of the game, but you see him come around, you see him open up, and as he starts forming these relationships with different characters, and you come across these different revelations, and you just see these things go down. It's like, this is a good story. This is a really good story. The gameplay is fun. The music is top tier. It's on a whole other level. It's really a great game. It really is. And I think it's one that everybody must play. And I know people will probably be like, oh, that's what everybody says. But like, you got to recognize greatness here, And Final Fantasy VII is one of those JRPGs that paved the way for a lot of other JRPGs. Final Fantasy VI did that too, and Final Fantasy IV did as well. And really, Final Fantasy as a series as a whole did that for a lot of people. And I think without Final Fantasy, we wouldn't have Persona. And so I think that, at least for Final Fantasy VII, it's absolutely a must play. And like I said, I've been enjoying playing it again on the Switch. Like, good grief, it's good. It's good. It's absolutely
Yeah, I've got it on
A
my
must-play
Vita.
title.
It's just, will I ever get to it?
You better at some point. Does the Vita have the like cheat things on it with like its 3 times speed and unlimited health and all that? Do you know?
I don't know.
Because I can't
don't know.
remember. Yeah, well, someone have to write and let us know. Before we end the show, I want to get to some of the other responses we got on Twitter. Gareth Evans, one of our executive producers of the show, he recommends The Surge, which is kind of like it's in the same vein as Dark Souls and Sekiro on that, but a little bit of a different aesthetic to it. It's got a more futuristic kind of robotic look, and I've played a little bit. It is hard, but it is fun, and so he recommends that, especially since Surge 2 is coming out later this year. Matt Crumley recommends Pokemon, specifically because I asked him, like, which one is the best though. He says that his favorite is Blue version. The best is probably Ruby and Sapphire, though I've heard Heart Gold and Soul Silver are better. And I've actually played Soul Silver. Soul Silver's really, really good. That's how you remake a game. But yeah, so basically Pokemon as a whole. Micah at X-Raytality, oh, that's a cool username. He says Street Fighter 2 Super Turbo, which, I mean, if you're into fighting games, absolutely. Wes Bronner, one of our new followers, he says The Last of Us, not because of the whole zombie game thing, but the story of just putting yourself in Joel's shoes, losing his daughter, and then reluctantly taking Ellie. He just says Naughty Dog just does narrative so well. And we actually did an episode on that one too that you guys can go check the backlogs out, listen to. Thank you guys for your responses. Dear listeners that are listening right now, what are your must-play games? Let us know on Twitter at TRG Podcast, on the Facebook page and the Facebook group, all across the social media spaces. Let us know what your must-play games are. Adam, man, before we let the dear listeners go, man, let's give them some recos, man. What should our dear listeners go check out apart from or in addition to these must-play games we just talked about?
TGC a little bit earlier. All their plenary sessions are up. Go check out David Platt, his sermon. Man, that dude pulls my heartstrings every time I hear him speak. I always want to be like, it's just David Platt, and then he preaches and I'm just like, slay me, send me overseas now, like, let's go. It's so good. He's such an encouragement, so go check it out. I mean, a lot of them were good, but that would be my go-to first.
Right on. My reco for this week is going to be go check out that Overwhelm first look on YouTube. I know I've said that 3 or 4 times already, but seriously, go check it out. It's one of our, we finally got a game like pre-release, and we managed to get some stuff out there. So go on to YouTube, youtube.com/thereformedgamers. Check out the first look. Hit the like button. Go show. Words are hard. Go show some support there. As well. But as always, if you like what we do here at the show, you can support us on patreon.com/thereformedgamers. Support as low as $1 a month goes a long way in helping us keep the show running and keeping it going, and allowing us to do different kinds of fun things with the show, such as providing YouTube content, streaming games like Sekiro and things like that. Even support as low as $1 a month now gets you early uncut access to not only, I forgot to add this on Patreon, but I'm going to add it here after I put this in if I remember. Not only does $1 a month get you early uncut access to all of our new episodes of the podcast, it gets you early access to all of our YouTube videos too. So if I'm going to put a new YouTube video up, you get a full 24 hours at the minimum early access to that video before anybody else. So you can be sitting around the water cooler and be like, I watched this new video on TRG's YouTube channel. And they're like, what? They didn't upload anything yet. It's like, yeah, I know, because I'm a dear patron and I get early access to it. So you get a little bit of bragging rights. But of course, you can always support other tiers too. It's just up to you. Do what you want to do. Patreon.com/thereformedgamers. As always, you can go to youtube.com/thereformedgamers or twitch.tv/thereformedgamers to see streams of Sekiro, see different episodes of the podcast are putting up on YouTube if you want to listen to it there, but also other gameplay that we're putting up over there as well. Also, head over to the website, The Reformed Gamers, check out our article written by David Skinner on the Doctrine of Adoption, and a few other articles that are going up. I'm feeling an article coming along here after I saw Prince Harry be like, no, Fortnite should be banned, and I'm like, hold up, get off the gas a little bit. Let's talk about this. So, new article incoming. And like I said before, you can follow us on Twitter at TRG Podcast. You can like the Facebook group. No, you can like the Facebook page. You can join the Facebook group. You can also follow us on Instagram at The Reformed Gamers. Dear listeners, thank you for listening to TRG. As always, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for rating and reviewing us on your different podcast aggregators, telling your friends about us and all that other fun stuff. But until next time, GG and amen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Reformed Gamers. This show is brought to you independent and ad-free thanks to our lovely dear patrons over on patreon.com. The following people are at the producer level or higher on Patreon, and we'd like to especially thank them. Those people are Alex Castellanos, David Skinner, Eric Bryant, Gareth Evans, Luke Strain, the Jet Islander Podcast, and Wesley Ray. Thank you so much for your continued support on Patreon, and thank you for encouraging my addictive habit of getting platinum trophies. GG and amen.